Hey, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, and today's another beautiful day out here in the homestead. I think we're 3 days in, and we're loving every minute of it, folks. I'm not kidding here. Right now, we're in a position of where we have to get these sheep out of here. Remember, in the previous video, we talked about how we just had to put them anywhere, just get them out of the way. Well, today is the day that we have an HVAC guy coming out to handle the heat pump we have on the back side of the house. And believe me, that's something we don't want to have down in the middle of winter in the mountains of North Carolina, in the foggy, beautiful mountains of North Carolina. Anyway, just a quick note. When we put in this fence, we're here on rocks. You know, this didn't work out so well when you're trying to put in an electro net, so we just kind of, sometimes you're going to have to call an audible. You're going to have to improvise, and this is one of those times where we used there was a weight from the weight room that was still left in this place. There was a weight, and we just kind of attached it. So we barely have it tethered into the ground, and it's being supported by this little string here to be able to hold this fence up. And we did the same sort of thing back over here, where we have a weight. We can't have this thing grounded out on metal, so we just used a weight, and we used whatever we could. So folks, use what you can, and use all the things that you have available to you to be able to get these projects done. Okay, so that brings us to what we are going to do today. So we talked before about trying to get the sheep down to the barn, and then we'll take them out every day and graze areas that we need grazed. But also, we still have that predicament with the chickens. So William and I spent much of yesterday, and it's kind of frustrating. It's exciting and frustrating at the same time, because we have to do all this running around, and by the time we get back, we live in the mountains, so the sun rises later and it sets earlier, because the mountains are kind of blocking it. So we're to the point today where we got to make room for the HVAC guy. We got to get the sheep out of here into the barn. We got to clean up the barn and get the chickens to a point where we can also have them being the most productive they can be. And right now we just kind of put a Band-Aid on everything. But today it's time to put foot to butt and get these projects done. Come along, let's get it done. All right, Michelle and I are here at the first stall, and this is where the sheep are going to go. She's not real crazy about it right now because it's in disrepair. We got concrete pieces, we got wood that people just threw in here. I know for a fact that when we came through the first time, they had a cow sitting in this stall and that one. That one over here, we've discussed it in a previous video about how there's a foot deep worth of cow manure in there. And we also talked about how we're going to fix it. But today we're going to go through specifics on how that's going to be fixed. Today, to make her little bottle babies happy, we're going to have to go ahead and clean up this mess. We were supposed to get straw yesterday. We didn't do it, but we have another means in which we're just going to lay hay down and clean up all the mess. We have outcroppings of rock and everything else in here. Her sheepies ought to be really, really happy. Is that what you call them, sheepies? Lammies? Okay, whatever. They're going to be babies. Seriously? Yeah, we'll tell a story about that sometime, where William and I were salivating like Pavlov's dog when they were born, and she started calling them babies. That's another story altogether, and it's pretty funny. But for now, we're going to set her babies up in their little jungle palace of love over here, and then we'll get back with you. Okay, that took all of like 5 minutes to get this thing squared away, and many hands make light work. So with all three of us at it, bam, it's done. So in short, we've taken all the mess out of here. We filled in the hole with some of the rocks that were in here. They actually weren't rocks, it's just dirt clods. And through the composting process and the chickens doing their thing, because remember, the chickens are over here now. In time, they will be over here, and we'll move them from quadrant to quadrants. Those are subsequent videos that we'll get into later. But right now, her little lammies, her little bottle babies, and frankly, they're really helpful for all of us. Her little lammies, oh, she's just so happy about this. Her little lammies have their little jungle palace of love, like we talked about it before. They can come down here, they're perfectly dry, they're wonderful, and during the day they're gonna come out and work for us rebuilding this land, because remember, it was played out by the people that were here before. I'm sure they didn't mean to, but we're gonna regenerate it, and we're gonna show you how we do it. So now it's time to get these sheepies down here. Okay, her fat little bottle babies are down here and they are loving it. Now it took a little bit of doing to get them down here because we got the HVAC guys are doing their thing and they were distracted, and frankly we did a lot of things. We probably should have done things a little bit differently, gotten her out in front and then kind of let them down. Anyway, it doesn't matter, they're here, and now that this is done, we're going to get the chickens squared away, and then we'll come back to the lambs, get them squared away. We'll get their net put out and then they can start having their little adventure on the property here. So the sheep are all squared away and they're sitting in there, they're chilling, and they're doing all the things that they're gonna do right now in that little space. But here in a little while, we're gonna stretch out the sheep netting, and then we'll let them go out there and do their thing. But right now, the thing that's most pressing are these birds. And like I said before in the previous video, they're sitting on, in some places, 2 feet of manure that had a little bit of straw thrown in there. It's not much, maybe some hay. Anyway, like I said, with the deep, we're gonna let the chickens do, we're gonna allow them to do the chickenness of the chicken, as Joel Salatin says, regarding pigs. But we're gonna turn that into what chickens do. They like to scratch, they like to do all those things. Well, guess what? We're gonna let them do what they naturally do and help us at the same time. So, and you know, in some of this hard clump stuff, we might even have to go in with a pitchfork and break it up a little bit, but we'll play it by ear. So right now, up until this point, they've been using these feeders. We reluctantly use those feeders, and we've had them for the sole purpose of just putting a Band-Aid on things until we can get out here and get things going. We've had water issues that we've had to fix. I mean, we've got a number of things that still need to get done in that house, but most importantly is to look after our animals before we look after ourselves. Up until now, we've just been putting Band-Aids on things. Now we're getting to the point where we can make this more ideal. So this is going to go away, and in the future, we're going to take their feed and we're going to put it directly on the ground, and we're going to allow them to do what chickens do. They're going to scratch, they're going to dig, they're going to do all those things they love to do anyway. And in addition to all that, in this particular case, we're going to take some pallets, we're going to make some makeshift roosts. We don't have anything permanent yet, and we don't want it to be permanent because they're going to go back and forth right now between here and where the sheep are. We'll cover that in future videos. Right now, the big thing is, the most important thing at this point is to go ahead and get them in a more ideal living condition, and that's what we're going to work on. Okay, it's been a full day, and daylight's still burning. First of all, I'm just astonished that it's near the end of November, and I'm wearing a t-shirt in North Carolina in the mountains. So you gotta love that part. Anyway, here we are. The chickens are in their new home. We started out, basically, we got them in there the other day, and thank God nothing happened. So the next thing we did was take all of the hay and everything we had inside the stock trailer. We put it inside here. Prior to that, we used the pitchforks like a broad fork. So we kind of loosened that stuff up a little bit. In the future, we're going to need pigs to really do the heavy lifting. That's going to be another video and a whole nother adventure entirely. So anyway, we get them back here. We get the chickens in here. We throw all of the spent hay that the sheep were using for days and days. Got that in there. And then all of a sudden, we use that little method that we used before with the Prusik knot that I showed you in the previous video when we were talking about pre-training. So, and I'm sure you can follow that at the, I think William will put that in the show notes. So we got that Prusik knot, which is crucial in this particular setting because remember, everything is going to constantly rise. So I need to have a pretty easy way to be able to raise the water and the grit. And then of course, from here on out, we're no longer going to be giving them feeders. We're going to be throwing the food on the ground and they're going to work it from there. Food scraps and all those other things. So we got that done. We took those egg crates that the folks had left behind here. Well, it was trash to them, but it's treasure to us. So Justin Road style, we've taken that, we put it on the wall, and we'll adjust as the elevation in there needs to. At that point, we're pretty much to the spot where during the day, we're basically going to leave these guys in here for now. We added this chicken wire, and it's going to be all the way around here. But right now, we added this chicken wire to keep any owls or anything else from flying in here at night and, you know, wiping these guys out. So that's done. We'll do a little more chicken predator proofing tomorrow, but we're losing the daylight, and we don't have a whole lot more time to do any of that. So the next deal is the sheep will go out during the day, and we're kind of toying around with the idea of letting the chickens go out at the same time. And then in the evening, the chickens will come back here to roost. We got a bunch of different methods and methodologies we intend to employ, things we've done before and things that we know about that we want to experiment with. So, folks, this is an adventure. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and I'm doing what I love. And folks, can't wait to do it for the rest of my life. See you next time.